Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and with me I have Wyatt. Welcome to RetroGrade, where we rank Atari 2600 games, and this week we're going to be doing Bomb, Konami, and Answer Software, and Milton Bradley. So we got 4 different publishers.
All sorts of things, yeah.
All kinds of stuff. So I'm going to have you go ahead and start today. So the first one up is Assault by Bomb.
So
what was Assault?
Okay, hold on. Assault. No. I got this. Let's take a look at this cover, everybody. This was 15, 20 minutes ago, by the way. This was not a long time ago that we played these games, which can only tell you what I thought of Assault. I wasn't overly impressed. I can tell you that much right off the bat.
Yeah, the thing where you did the thing, that was
Not
really
great.
annoying.
Here's one thing about Bomb in general, while we try and remember what specifically Assault by Bomb was. All of these games had one of the same issues where, or most of them did, if I recall, where you were forced to select your direction of fire in very awkward ways that didn't always make much sense or seem all that fun. Yeah. Oh, it's all coming back to me.
So rewind all that.
Oh, no, I think some of that was good.
You think some of it was good?
Some of it was pretty funny, I thought.
Okay, all right.
We can cut in, like, when we started to just stop talking and just be like, okay.
All right. So Assault.
We've looked into this. Assault is not very good.
Okay.
But the problem with it was,
we've got a crack team of scientists
we have the
to work
best
on this.
men on it. The top men. Top men. Anyway, Assault, you shoot up at things. It's Space Invaders again. Except this time you can shoot to the side if you press the button to hold down so that you can shoot left and right. It's a bad system. It doesn't make much sense. And we never got past the guys that would shoot little buzzy saws down at you that would then come from the left or the right. You'd have to shoot them, but we never shot any of them because they would shoot them right next to you, and then they would instantly roll over and blow you up.
Another thing it had like a heat meter or whatever.
Yeah, you could overheat by shooting too often, and it's like punishing you for playing the game as it's built to be played.
Apparently.
I didn't much appreciate that. I'm going to give this a C. This game didn't need to be any of the things that it was. I give it a C, though, instead of a D, because it did have some cool graphics. The animation on some of those guys was pretty cool. It was interesting to see an attack that was slightly different, and one guy would shoot, like, peas at you.
Sure.
He would shoot, like, a shotgun blast of green dots.
Right.
So, at least it was interesting. It wasn't just the lines that always get shot down at you.
Right.
But yeah, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are pretty much the same. The fact that they kind of force you to go in 4 different directions. That someone there decided all games you must shoot in 4 directions. That's the law. And unfortunately, the way that it works out with only one button is that completely detracts from the way you move, because you have to you hold down the button to do an action, and it just it's backwards from any other thing that you would want to do. Typically you would be like, okay, if you want to do that, you hold, you hit the button and you push the direction you want to shoot, and it'll go there. They didn't do that, and it was just really odd.
The order of operations was always weird.
Yep.
And they always assigned 2 functions to the joystick.
Yep.
Basically at the same time, which I don't think you should ever do personally. That just makes things confused. Mm-hmm. So, a C.
I would definitely agree with the C rating.
But the next one, Great Escape, is the one I thought Assault was for a second there.
That's the one with the little asteroid shit.
I wasn't super impressed with this one either, because you could speed up by holding the joystick in a direction, or if you were just going in a direction for more than a moment, even if your hand was off the stick, it would just speed up eventually.
Right.
Which would just throw you into something because you weren't expecting it. Mm-hmm. Meaning you'd have to just turn around, and it just stunted the gameplay a lot. And again, there's just the death UFO.
Right.
That if it enters the screen, you lose. And it's just... because of that. The death screen when the UFO shows up is kind of cool, but it takes way too long. And I don't know, it just didn't even function very well. I'm very tempted to leave it in D, but it was functional enough that I guess I can give it a C. A low C, but, you know, I don't want to say it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not good.
Yeah, again, you must fire in 4 different directions. And then one of the things that's weird
too in this one.
It was weird to me also, one of the things that I noticed with all the bomb games is the animation on them was odd. It was like, it was weird that in that it would change, like when it moved down or whatever, it would like make one line two, or like it would double up on lines. So it looked very weird on the way it did the animation. I can't give this one, I don't know. Is it a D? You know what? I'm gonna go with a D.
I think that's fair. It's super on that edge because it's just not good.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much else we can say about it. In that it's just
don't feel the need to play it. Like even at a C minus, it's not something I would recommend. But I'll leave it there just for the differentiation, I think. But yeah, definitely a thumbs down on that one. Wall Defender, not much better, honestly. We played it for longer because there was a little bit more going on.
Right.
There were enemies, different kinds of enemies over time. They're all coming at you and they're destroying your little maze. But you can't go through most of the maze until after you've already collapsed it.
Right.
Which feels weird because why even show it at that point? Just make a square that's progressively smaller and don't show the things in the middle.
Yeah, it was a little odd.
I didn't much think that it was fine in some ways. So I'm going to give that one a higher C. Like this is a C plus kind of game. If there are tweaks that could be made to make that game much more fun. For one thing, if you could shoot across lines, if that makes sense. Because there were times where you were trying to, you were at the top left corner of your little square, and you're trying to fly across to the right corner to shoot guys that are off to the right. And as you're flying over along the line, you can't shoot to the right, even though you're holding right to go that way. It would only shoot up at that point.
Which kind of defeats the purpose of having like the directional shooting thing.
Yeah.
It had the same problem that the other games did on you have to choose a direction to shoot. All these are just kind of meh.
Bombs?
Yeah, I guess that's a good name for it.
Yeah, it's just odd. Also, I don't really understand their name as a company. Bomb. Because, I guess something can be the bomb. Yeah. But was that even a thing in the 80s when these came out?
Nah, not that I am aware of. I don't think in the early 80s that was a thing. What always cracks me up is the name of the company. They were really impressed with their naming, though.
Yeah, they put that way bigger than everything else.
Which is so weird. Because if you just look at that, I think especially Assault Bomb, I would think that you might think that Assault might be the name of the company and Bomb might be the name, because it's.
At first, I thought it was a singular name, the Assault Bomb, which dumb name maybe, but I don't know. It didn't give that wow factor,
right? And
so kind of just putzed about.
Yeah.
Z-Tack.
This was the Reverse Atlantis game.
I liked Z-Tack a little better. Yeah. It was slow, though, and there wasn't a lot going on. Again, you've got to shoot all directions, like in every one of these games. But when you're moving around, you kind of squashed and stretched in weird ways.
That's what I was talking about, the animation.
That animation was...
It was almost like, you were looking at it through, like, glass or something.
I think most exemplified
water,
their weird control scheme. Z-Tack... Also not very great, but it was definitely better than some of these other ones. And I will say, that's one I could see myself playing at least another time. So I'm going to give that a B. It wasn't terrible. It functioned for what it was trying to do. And the clunkiness of the animations and the shooting directions worked a lot better when it was a lot easier to go around than in, like, The Great Escape. Because the Great Escape, it was difficult to move.
Yeah.
But at least in this one, the movement flowed well enough. you could get a hang of it, and we got through several levels, so.
It's still a C title to me. I just... Yes, it worked better, mostly. The animation on it was poor. The graphics were decent, but it just seemed really dull to me.
I can understand that, yeah.
I don't see the need to play it again. So, okay.
Yeah, that was... Bomb sucks. I mean, to be honest, in a lot of ways, I could probably put this down here as well, because that's really how I feel about it in a lot of ways. These games, even with this B, which I'll keep this one in B because I think it did well enough. But these games just sort of
bombed?
Farted.
They bombed.
Yeah, they bombed. They were just and it wasn't even a very good explosion. Right. They just kind of went.
Yeah. Kind of like a dud firework or something.
Yeah. Like they popped off like a firecracker filled with half the powder, you know?
Right,
it's like, it kind of blew up, I suppose.
Yeah.
But no, Bomb didn't really seem to make much of a name for themselves, because I don't know that they knew what they were really going for, other than they wanted to shoot in 4 directions in space mostly.
Yep, exactly.
Like, that's all that was happening in every game.
Yep.
So, just sort of sad.
A C developer, I would say.
At best.
At best, yeah.
So, next up is Konami. Much, I think, better known in later years for everything else they've done, but interesting that they got their start kind of at the 2600 level. Or were they more arcade developers that dabbled?
I think they were arcade developers at that point, I think. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, just trying to put out some stuff for the 2600. None of it here is from, as far as I know, were Konami arcade games. I mean, like Konami was... Contra and Atari Warriors, I think, and I think it was Atari Warriors was Konami. But yeah, they didn't put out those games.
What do we got for this first one?
First one was Marine Wars.
Oh, Marine Wars, that's right. This one did catch my attention because it was sort of awkward to play, and I didn't fully understand what was going on all the time as far as when you lose a life, when you don't, how to aim, and things like that. But it was interesting. I thought
it was interesting as when you shot it and the direction it went wasn't obvious on how it was going to get there.
No,
when it was going to.
It was a satisfying impact whenever you got someone.
Sure. That was the thing. Is like, okay, I want to try to hit those guys in the back, and so you're really trying. It's like you just trying. So. It was, it wasn't horrible, though. The graphics looked good.
Sure, yeah.
But, yeah. What are you done with it?
I'm trying to figure it out, because it had some good aspects to it, and it's definitely better than Z-Tack. But it's not like an amazing game or anything.
No.
That's kind of the trouble of putting this in B, to be honest with you, is like, I think this might deserve a B, barely.
Right.
But it's making me realize, does Z-Tack really deserve a B?
Yeah.
I'm moving around a lot today.
You're just going to copy me. That's all it is to it.
It's all right.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing I think I had a hard time with Marine Wars is there wasn't a whole lot going on other than you're just shooting the things. Yeah.
Eventually, it did become night, and the ones in the back you couldn't see. And you have to use your missiles and the explosions to see them, which is interesting. But... and there might have been more stuff that we didn't get to. But at the very least, I enjoyed most of my time with it. So it's going to bump Z-Tack down, and I'm going to leave it in B.
Well, I agree with you on the B. I would say a C, but it's definitely not in the territory of the bomb stuff. I mean... It was definitely better as far as like it had the horizon and it looked better as far as, the graphics and everything. And the shooting thing, I couldn't quite figure out, and it may be something that we were missing, but trying to determine which direction. Yeah,
the aiming was hard. I will say that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was because if you go more to the left or the right, if it were always going to go kind of towards the center or not. That's what it seemed like it was doing, but it seemed like there was current.
And,
and maybe you're just trying to just shoot.
It seemed like the current always just took you back to the middle.
Right.
So you would go to the side and you could shoot while still moving without thinking about it.
Well, I think one of the things that was nice about it is it was fine with letting you keep shooting and keep shooting and keep shooting.
Just fire all the time,
Because some of these games, you shoot and then hopefully
then it's a labor until it comes back to being able to shoot again,
and it's frustrating. So whereas this, you just keep shooting, and maybe that's part of the deal, is you shoot and you're off by a little, so you adjust, and you shoot and you're off by a little and you adjust, that kind of thing. So
it worked for what it was trying to do for the most part. It's not the world revolutionary kind of game, but it's all right. Pooyan, the game where you play a pig shooting at wolves with your little arrows to save your children, who the wolves are like paratrooping onto with their balloons.
Yes,
I did kind of like it, actually. It was hard as heck, though.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but the graphics were pretty cool. Everything was pretty clear about what was going on. I'm just not sure where to put it, though. Because, it's definitely... I think it's going to go in the B, above Marine War. Because I did have a lot of fun with it, and... even though it's not a game I'm eager to come back to a ton of times, I would come back to it. This version. We also played another version on stream, like the 8-bit, I think. That was really interesting to see that comparison. But they both have strengths and weaknesses, and it's a cool game. I just got to give it its small amount of due for that.
For me...
It was really hard, though.
I grew up with the 8-bit version, and I've played the arcade game several times too. It is based on an arcade game. Playing this was a little rough because, for one, it was harder than on the arcade, and it could have been a difficulty setting. But it was also a little odd with the shooting. The movement was very stilted. It was like boom, 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 boom. It wasn't like a smooth up and down movement, which was a little weird for me. But that being said, as a 2600 port of an arcade game, which is always kind of a tall order anyway, I would say, not good enough to put it as an A, unfortunately. The other version, I would definitely put it there. It's one of my top games. But I'm going to copy you again and just say, it's a B+ kind of title. It's good, but it's just, I think the graphics and stuff kind of detracted for me on the, not really the graphics, but I guess the animation and stuff.
Sure, I understand what you're going for. Okay, Strategy X. A game I know a lot as far as its cover and stuff, because through our store, through the Blue Dragon Sword, I have seen a lot of copies of Strategy X.
Yes, they're unique cartridges.
They look cool. They do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Pooyan and Marine War also looked cool, but I've never seen any copies of those. I have seen copies of Strategy X, but it did kind of let me down a little bit from all the times I've seen its cool cartridge and cover and art. Because it's slow as hell.
Yeah.
It's just really plotting. You don't go anywhere fast. You're shooting at nothing.
Right.
Like barely anything. And they really lead those shots into where you're about to be.
Yeah.
But they always seem to get it right. So, I don't know. I don't think I can give this one a B. I'm going to give it a high C. I was not as involved in that game as some of these other games.
Right.
And at this point, I'm just surprised when I see a game that, I don't quite remember when this one came out, but it was 81 or 2 or 3. Yeah. And that is from a time where I kind of expect a little bit more at this point.
Right.
The animation wasn't very good. It was really slow. And it just... I don't know why it was those ways. It could have very easily been much better with 2 tweaks.
Right. I think it kind of reminds me of River Raid, but with tanks.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right, because it's a moving.
If they would have done something, it was on rails. If they would have fixed some of the animation issues, because as you were saying, it was very stilted when it was moving. When you move your tank, it was not smooth at all. And it was a little weird with the movement thing while everything's moving at the same time and you're going left, like right to left or left to right or whatever. And because you were still on the same plane, but it was moving. It was
awkward.
It was awkward. But I kind of feel like this one could have been fixed, as you said. If it would have been a little bit more time on it. For me, I'm gonna put it kind of a mid B to me.
Mid C, you mean?
Mid C rather. I just I had a hard time getting into it. It plays okay, but it's just not anything special to me.
There are some games that really hit you, and Strategy X isn't necessarily that game. Could have been though. And that's, I think, the sad part. We're not sad. Konami did fine.
Yeah.
It's not like, because you didn't do Strategy X creatively enough. Oh, dang. I don't even care.
They're still around.
They are still around.
Yep.
Man, I like Silent Hill. You like Silent Hill?
You know, I've never played them.
What is your favorite Konami franchise now that we finished Konami on the 2600?
Good question. I think when I think Konami, I think Contra.
Sure.
That's really
and Contra they've done lots of good Contra games.
Yes.
And a few less than great, but mostly good.
Right. But on the 2600, I'd say that they're maybe a above average publisher.
Slightly, B- kind of
Yeah.
publisher. Their Atari 2600 offerings are definitely, I think, interestingly, not really much of a sign of what's to come for them as a developer.
No.
They ended up really pushing the bar in a lot of their games. And I know Konami these days tends to sit on their laurels a little more, but that's neither here nor there. It's really interesting to see quite such humble beginnings for home console releases, though. Because this is pretty humble. It's fine.
Humble. There you go.
Whereas our next one, I think, is these next two games kind of surprised me.
Right.
Answer Solutions. Right?
Software.
It looks like solutions from here, and I don't know why. But anyway, Answer Software. I actually kind of liked both of these, I think. I'll have to remember more once we get to this one, but Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I actually had a good deal of fun with Gauntlet, and I'm going to put it Gauntlet and Ace here.
Yep. I can't disagree.
You could run and
I love the how about you when you stop. It does
It did the animation, it did the sound.
Yes.
It really actually kind of impressed me with what it did.
It was hard, but I felt like it was doable.
It was also forgiving.
Yeah.
Because when you would get hit, you could move out of the way before anything else kept moving.
Right.
They understood that if they didn't do that, it's kind of like, they give you invincibility frames and nothing else moves so that you can get a running start before stuff starts to become big obstacles again.
Right.
The jumping was a little awkward because it was kind of hard to nail.
It was kind of weird. The jumping was a little odd.
Yeah, but also we didn't play with it too much, and what it did do, I think it did well.
I kind of feel like this was, out of all of these, is one that I would not hesitate to go back and play. I'm gonna still copy you with an A. I was really surprised as well. I was like, I have no idea anything about these. I know that it's like, what's the deal? Because Gauntlet, this isn't Gauntlet.
It's not the Gauntlet. The one that you know, but it is its own thing, and I can see why they called it that. Still.
Yeah, you're running the Gauntlet. That's kind of the idea.
It did well enough to get an A, and I think that's pretty impressive for a developer that did 2 games and that I've literally never heard of.
Right.
What's their next one?
Malagai?
Malagai. Oh, this one was kind of interesting too, actually.
Which one was this?
Malagai was the maze game where there were 3 monsters and you had to interact with each of them to get their key or their essence or something.
I thought it was like a Pac-Man game or something, but
no, it was more interesting than that. It was kind of difficult though, because they would run away from you a lot, and then they'd turn into monsters, and it was kind of tedious to run all the way back, go into the little white thing, and have them reset. But if you could get into a good flow of hitting each of the ones in a different order every time, it was kind of fun. And it did have multiple levels. And it seemed like there might even be more layouts than what we saw, more different stuff. Maybe they would add, it's hard to say what they would add later on, but it added stuff as it went. And it had more than one screen that was different. So I'm pretty impressed with all that. That being said, the weirdness of trying to collect those guys quickly enough, and it did become tedious a little. So I'm not going to give it an A, but I will give it a solid B.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm not sure what they could have done to make it better. I felt like the maze was almost superfluous. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, you have a maze, so just to make it a little harder to get to them. But it wasn't like, looking at it originally, I was like, oh, this looks like Pac-Man or something. But and actually, it took a while to figure out what you're supposed to do. It was not obvious. I went up to the top and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you figured out that, the guys are all different. They actually look different, even though they're very similar. But you're just like, oh, this one has a line in the middle, this one doesn't.
General shapes.
Yeah. I'm going to put this at mid-B. I thought it was an interesting concept. I guess it would be interesting as if they added more of the guys or did something
and who knows what was going to happen, but it has some potential to it, and it definitely makes Answer a B+, and if the teacher is feeling generous at the end of the year, an A-.
Yeah, exactly. I think they did a solid thing. The graphics looked good. The animation was good. There was no weirdness on them. So yeah.
Yeah, all in all, it's solid. Yeah. And that's kind of all I can ask of a lot of Atari 2600 games at this point. Some of these just need to be good enough to play and have fun.
Right.
They don't need to reinvent the wheel, but if sometimes they make something really incredible. But all I'm asking for is consistency, and Answer gave it to me. So I'm gonna applaud them for that. The next two are from Milton Bradley.
Right.
Toy manufacturer, board games, other stuff, probably.
Probably.
At least 2 video games.
Right.
That also had unique controllers that were totally superfluous.
Exactly. So the first one is called Spitfire Attack, and that was the
Flight Commander control game.
Yes. Flight Commander control. Yes, that was the controller that came with it.
That came for Spitfire Attack.
If you look at it, it looks, they're like shooting at the screen.
Yeah.
And it completely not needed.
Unnecessary. Just for fun.
But the game
was actually pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm going to give it a high B, I think.
Okay.
Because the game didn't wow me a ton. It was very... shoot this thing as it's coming to you. Everything on the screen, just shoot it.
Yep.
But the animation was really good. The graphics looked really good for the 2600, and I got to give it credit for that. So I'm going to give it a high B because it didn't wow me, but it didn't didn't put me to sleep or anything. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I like the way the jets look as they are planes.
Yeah, the biplanes.
They look really neat as they're coming towards you. They did a good job. I thought that this was a solid game. If it had more in it.
That's the big thing, is after playing it for a few minutes, it really feels like you've gotten the breadth of it.
Right.
As much as Malagai was, kind of weird in some ways, I could see there's a lot of potential for where that could go if we played more. We played enough of Spitfire Attack that it was like, okay, this is what it is. It's maybe going to get slightly faster, but otherwise there's not really anything that's going on here.
Sure.
So that's my reason for the B. But the Cosmic Commander control for the other game, which was...
Survival Run.
Right. This was kind of cool. It had a map that you had to follow.
Like 3D.
You had to make
it had it on the screen.
Yeah.
Which was neat. And it was also kind of cool playing as a second player. You can kind of guide the other person. Now, you could have, once you see it on the screen, you could look up and see which direction you're going. But it was kind of nice to be able to have the co-pilot.
Yeah, the camaraderie kind of situation.
Being able to say, hey, you need to turn left, you turn right. What was interesting to me is that it was, you definitely would have dead ends if you didn't go the right way, and I guess the game over or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? Do you get to the end? Can you turn around, or do you just die? At that point, why wouldn't you just reset though?
Yeah,
to a certain extent?
Exactly.
So kind of a moot point on a little bit of the maze because of that, but a very cool concept and executed well.
Yeah. There's some areas where I could see it being better in some ways, but I thought they did a pretty decent job with it.
Another strange game where it's your cursor that is you, though.
Yes. Avoid it with your cursor.
Which, the weird part about that has always been that, well, I'm the one who's shooting towards the cursor. The bullets are clearly coming from behind the cursor, but the cursor is me, so where are these coming from? It gives that little bit of dissonance that makes you think too much about a video game.
Yeah.
Like if it's like, oh, I'm playing as a hand with a gun and bolts come from behind you, but the gun is the thing that you need to reload, and that if you get hit in the gun.
I don't think you're supposed to think about it that much.
Yeah, I know, but then you shouldn't do it because it makes me think about it that much. Yeah, I know. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But to be honest, that's kind of a nitpick sort of deal. I actually thought this one was deserving of a low A. I don't think I really know what else it had to offer. Maybe I had seen everything in each hallway, and from there it was just going to be repetition. Mm-hmm. But it felt like there could be more. And there's an end of a maze. Whenever there's an ending, that gives me a lot of bonus credit to a lot of these 2600 games.
Right.
Because most of them didn't have endings. They didn't have an actual goal to strive for. You're just going until you fail. And going until failure isn't always the most fun. If you having that goal to aspire to, I think really elevates games.
I'm going to go with a B+. I think that it was neat. I could see wanting to play that again just to kind of see what else there is. There may not be anything else. But
you want to see.
Yeah, because, they could have had other bad guys. They could have had other things that you had to do.
Maybe a different color hallway.
Yeah, maybe.
You said yeah, maybe, as though that was like a pipe dream, like 2 colors. Incredible. What will the children dream of next?
Exactly. But I think one of the things that was kind of weird to me is the fact that there was like columns on the sides as opposed to solid walls.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
I think they could have had a little bit better immersion if they'd had solid walls, but
it was kind of unclear what they were going for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you're the cosmic commander implying space, if given the controller, right? You're the cosmic commander control. So you're a spaceship or you're some sort of ship thing. I don't know. It's unclear. But because the whole theming is just not really there. It's like, oh no, there's gerbily gerb.
Gerbily gerb?
Yeah, there's static. Is it an energy field? Is it a demon? Whatever? Maybe.
Maybe. Good luck.
Up to you. But it leaves enough to your imagination in kind of a fun way that it's still not terrible. I'm going to stick with the A-.
All right, that's fair. Okay.
Pretty similar list this week.
Yeah, so Milton Bradley, I think they did pretty good. They pretty much were very similar to Answer Software.
Yeah, kind of
quality. Definitely a solid developer.
We've hit the point where now we are going to go into the 1 and 2 developers. They've made a game, maybe they made 2, and one of them was a remake or a reskin of some other game or whatever. That's what we've got kind of left before our big one, our big finale next year. Mm-hmm. But I gotta say, we're getting to a point where it's like, these are interesting, but I'm excited to kind of see the conclusion of these Atari 2600 games. And I am enjoying the journey, and I think this is not a bad place. Not a bad kind of, what's the third from Ultimate? Because there's Penultimate, when it's the second to last, and there's...
I don't know, no idea. Shrultimate, there you go.
Semifinals.
Shrultimate.
Semifinals? Quarterfinals?
I have no idea. Now you're starting to get into like kind of sportsy stuff. I was like,
I don't know. Tournaments? You never been to a Smash tournament or something?
No, I haven't ever been to a Smash tournament, but I do know that there's the finals and quarterfinals and all that stuff. Semifinals and quarterfinals. I don't know. When we start getting into that, I have no idea.
There's a lot of finals.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is, not a bad place to be.
No.
I think overall, a lot of the games we've been playing lately are of decent quality. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, obviously, but
Right.
it's cool to see that game development by the end of the 2600 cycle, they mostly knew what they were doing.
Mostly. I mean, there was definitely some misses in here as far as some of the animation was weird. It seems like I'm not sure how they were able to sign off on some of that. It's like that looks really bad with the animation and stuff. It was very odd in some ways. I don't know if it was just they were rushed to get it to market or what, but
Sure. I mean, it's true even to today. No matter how much time on modern hardware people have, there are games that have been coming out these last couple of years that are like, that looks like a joke. That looks like a parody of a game.
Right.
That looks like the game they would put in a movie when they don't want to pay licensing fees.
Right.
But they still want to put a game in a movie.
Right.
So it's just like some game. But it's
Can you think of any modern games that would be like that?
Yeah,
Just
maybe
recently?
a couple, yeah.
Maybe on the Switch?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe Mortal Kombat? Yeah.
Hey, at least that was an actual game. It just very downgraded version. I think the worst part of it is just maybe it's the comparison, but that looks worse than any previous Mortal Kombat even. Which was not great.
Right.
But there were also games like the Kong game that came out recently that had a JPEG, literally, as part of one of its cutscenes.
Wow.
And just...
That's like, seems like it's a stand-in kind of thing.
Yeah, like they just never went back to trade that out for an actual asset. And it's like... crazy that they got the Kong license for that.
Right.
But regardless of all that, some games still need a little more bake time, I think, these days. So I'll give some credence to some of these, because a lot of these were probably also made in far less time, with a lot less resources, and more just like, yeah, you make the game. Just go ahead.
Just go ahead and do your thing.
Make game.
Yes. Poke, make game.
Yeah, 80s businessmen just walking into a room with a bunch of coders and developers and being like, I need you to make a game. Just however that works. I'll be back tomorrow for it.
Yep, exactly.
Have fun.
Alrighty, guys. I think that's all we have for today. Appreciate you being with us. As per usual, leave your comments down below with your rankings of these games. We'd love to see it. And yeah, we have a couple more weeks of these left. But, we'll see you in the next adventure. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.